love you. Oh, loves. Do you have thoughts? Do you wanna share them with me? I love you. Oh, loves. Oh, do you have thoughts? I'd like to share mine with you. Can we share like lovers do? Underneath the painted blue moon, oh loves, do you have thoughts? And do you want to share with me? Share with me too. I love you, oh loves, do you have thoughts? And do you wanna share them with me? 'Cause I've got dreams to share with you. Come and let's share some fantasies. I love you, oh loves. Do you have thoughts? And do you wanna share them with me? I love you, oh loves. Do you have thoughts? I wanna share mine with you. Please share me with you too. I wanna be with you. I love you, oh loves. Night after our last night, I seen you best time yet. You stood in the sun. I knew you were my woman. When I dreamed that night, I held you oh so tight. Your arms held me like the blankets I ever knew. When I was a baby, you wrapped in my mom's arms, and every night all I did was dream of you. And now you know, 'cause you seen me too. I hope you wanna go and share your whole life and dreams with me too. Oh, loves, do you have thoughts? And do you wanna share with me too? Do you, and oh, loves, do you have thoughts? I know I do. Come and share. Can you come and be with me too? I wanna share them with you. Oh, loves. Ooh, share with me too.
another Bring Me the Horizon track. Post-Human Survival Horror continues to be one of my favorite albums. I leaned into it heavily during the pandemic, and these new tracks preceding the new album so far have been just awesome, every single one of them. Ollie's voice keeps getting better and better, too. Let's see what we got. Their production is just... I should come to expect it by now. I mean, right off, things are simultaneously so simple, yet when you take a second to listen to more, the vocal layering, all the little twinkly things happening, so much fun. Listen to the octave above the main line, but also listen, if you're listening in good headphones, which you should be, listen to the panning of the vocals and the mild distortion that's gluing his voice to the front of this mix. You really get a sense for what a large part his breathing is in this line because of how compressed and distorted these calm vocals are. Oh, gotta hear that transition again. That line, and particularly the rhythmic makeup of it, reminds me of a recently covered Papa Roach tune by one of my other favorite artists. Don't give a fuck if I cut my arm bleeding. Don't give a fuck if my heart stops beating. Hey, I'm begging you to stay. Can't trust myself tonight. My heart keeps breaking. Ooh, let's go over that chorus again. There's a lot going on in terms of pitch screaming. This is all pitch screaming, singing with distortion to different degrees. And I want to help you access this if you're interested in doing stuff like that. And if you want to go deeper with the foundations necessary to get this kind of stuff out of your own voice, click the link below and join my free voice course. I'll help you with support, I'll help you with resonance, all things you need to sing with distortion correctly, safely, and expressively. So let's just take that, the notes, clean. Hey, I'm begging you to stay. That top note where he breaks up. This isn't about saying, I'm gonna push harder alone to get distortion. It's so broken up and it's so different from his clean voice. So if we actually back off pressure while we're reaching for that note, hey, I'm and don't quite hit it and let our voice crack. Let it crack horribly. Hey, I'm begging you to stay. And be really ugly with it. Then practice leaning in right at the point you feel your voice breaking. Practice leaning into the crack. Hey, I'm begging you to stay. This takes time to develop, but you can hear in what I'm doing as I lean into that break, I can manage to get the pitch in there at the same time as all the false chord engagement. Same thing there. And there. So right there, you hear the, I can't trust myself tonight! Even if you can't hit those notes cleanly, try to not hit them cleanly. I can't trust myself tonight! And let yourself be sloppy with it, and embrace all the cracking and breaking that happens. I love that line. Let's add a little bit of that desperation that he's got there. Now, that technique is a little bit different than the one I just covered. The one I just covered, we're sort of pushing up to a point where our voice cracks and then leaning into it. Here, we're going to sigh down to those notes a little bit. So if we just work on speaking this line. Can you talk me off the ledge again? Can you talk me off the ledge again? All these little artifacts that are happening, right? Can you talk me off the ledge again? So I'm still breaking, but I'm sighing into this break. Can you talk me off the ledge again? Now I'm going to try to maintain pitch. So clean. Can you talk me off the ledge again? Don't worry if you're not sounding exactly the way you want to sound. This stuff is ugly when you're dialing it in. Can you talk me off the ledge again? Now, I'm going to sigh more into it and embrace those imperfections and inefficiencies. Sigh, sigh. Can you talk me off the ledge again? Oh, and it gets so nasty. The key is we want to embrace what doesn't sound good while we're dialing this in and continue to feel out the difference between our clean singing and our sighs. As long as we're sighing into this and not letting ourselves tense into forcing a particular sound, that sound will come. And you saw it starting to develop even as I was continuing to sigh and continuing to compare the differences in sensation between clean and sigh. Oh, listen how abandoned he was there on Heart Stops Beating on the background vocals. But it's a lot closer to, if my heart stops beating, than it is anything else, right? This complete abandonment. Resignation, right? That's what we're sensing. And that's what this sigh, this well-supported sigh, helps to communicate and helps you experience. Another cool thing about what he does, if we listen to that over and over again, there's this breath pressure release after what he's doing. We can tell he's using a lot of compression on his screams. He's compressing into those sighs and those screams because we hear the excess come out at the end. Over and over. Or Here comes the breakdown. Also, if we really focus in on the production, the doubling that's happening with those screams helps fill out some of the imperfections that you would hear if it was only one Ollie doing those screams. Keep that in mind as you're dialing this stuff in. Now there's some good non-pitched. You can also sigh into that approach. But the difference is we're not re-engaging or trying to re-engage our primary chords. We're leaving them out. Just false chord engagement there. One more time. Now that is the same type of pitch scream. It's just that he's leaning way harder into the false chord sensation than he is trying to dial it back for pitch. When I'm gone! You can still hear that pitch cracking in and out. But if we really abandon over to the false chord engagement, which again, I can help you with moderating your support so that you can do this correctly if you join my free course, linked in the video description. But listen again to Gone. When I'm gone, no, when I'm, that's the implied note, but it's hardly there. When I'm gone, you really can't hear the note that much. You could hear me the first time I did it, dial it in a little bit, remove the primary chords. This is a balancing act. So fun to play with once you start finding this balancing act. Can't trust myself tonight. You hear that very, very faintly in the background. That octave, that intensity. Can't trust myself. Can you tell me off the ledge again? Brilliant and catchy. So looking forward to the new album. Again, if you would like more help with your voice so that you can start to approach this level of singing, click the link below and join my free course. We'll see you for more. Tips for practicing singing in your car, because we all know it's one of the best places to practice. Tip number 1, know your car. That sound you just heard was a B, a little bit sharp. Ah! So I know
that I have that sort of pitch reference right when I get into my car before I put on any music at all. You can play around with that a little bit. Tip number 2, grab yourself some earplugs. If you're practicing correctly and really cutting loose, you're going to hurt your ears. You want to be free to be belty and do all sorts of fun things with your voice and experiment without hurting your ears in this small space. Wear earplugs. Tip number 3, jam out to some lo-fi. Oh, it's instrumental, so you can be free.
My comments have been flooded with people asking for a reaction to Gabriel Henrique's Earth Song. I have not heard this guy sing. Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time that I've been accused of living under a rock. I do know that he was on America's Got Talent, and I saw that there was a video that had millions of views, but I didn't watch that one either. So this is my first experience, and it just so happens to be a Michael Jackson cover, which is amazing because if you've been following my channel at all, you know that I've done dozens of isolated vocal and multi-track breakdowns of a lot of my favorite Michael Jackson songs. Well, let's just dive right in, shall we?
What about sunrise? What about the rain? What about all the things that you say the words again? What about killing fields? Is there time? What about all the things that you say was yours and mine? Did you ever stop to notice all the brothers shared before? Did you ever...
Well, before we get too much into this, I want to point out a few things. This is a singing channel, and I help people pull things out of their own voices by listening in certain ways to great vocalists and then figuring out what they can do with their voices based on that. And if you'd like more help doing that with your voice, click the link below in the video description or the first comment and join my free vocal course, and I'll help you work with your own voice in a very new way. Listen to the contrast in his tone and approach from the beginning to when he starts leaning into his chest voice a bit more. This is important for any singer to recognize.
What about sunrise? What about the rain?
What about sunrise? You ever have that singing in the shower, singing in the car, sort of passively voice, and you feel like your voice is so free you could do anything, but then when you start to lean into your voice later, it traps itself. This voice and approach that he's using right here is that kind of voice, where it's not a fully engaged chest voice. He's playing with that border between the chest voice and the head voice, but because he's not using very much breath pressure, what? You could classify this as partly in chest voice and partly in head voice. It's a really cool place to live and feel out in your own voice.
What about all the things that you say the words again?
But you can hear, hey, when he hits that note and then goes for the run, he's more engaged. He pushes into his chest voice, hey, and then he does a much more complex run than that, but he does it by backing off the breath pressure, not by leaning in further as he tries to gain agility. Lots of singers reverse this and it trips them up.
What about killing fields? Is there time? What about all the things that you say was yours and mine? Did you ever stop to notice all the brothers shared before?
Now he's doing another thing that all great vocalists do. Before. He's sighing in to a heavily engaged chest voice note. This allows for an extra freedom when it comes to pushing into your voice. If you just go, a lot of times we end up sounding like a trapped megaphone or a very monotone type sound. But if you have this freedom to, sort of goofily sigh into particular parts of your voice, you can actually get a freer, more variety-oriented tone out of it.
All the brothers share before.
Subtle.
You do ever start to notice this quiet, this evening shows.
Oh, that was beautiful. Oh, yeah. Now there, that whole section very definitively going between chest voice and head voice, not because he needs to. This is another thing that great vocalists do that subpar vocalists do not do. Subpar vocalists tend to use head voice as a way to cover notes that they just can't quite reach in chest voice or mixed voice. He is willfully going in and out of chest voice and head voice as an art form, as a way to express and create more dynamics. He doesn't have to use his head voice. He's choosing to. As soon as you can get to the point as a vocalist where you can choose to use head voice or chest voice as a method of expression and not a cop-out or crutch, your voice will improve drastically.
I used to dream, I used to place beyond the stars. Now I don't know where we are. I know, drifting far.
Yeah. Oh. Case in point, he's higher now. There's a key change. He's doing way more of it in his chest voice. He's got great compression, great breath pressure and control. You can hear little bits of grit coming in when he's choosing to. He's got so much control over the expression in his voice. He's a master of what his voice can do from an agility perspective. I want to go back and point out a few specific things here.
I know, drifting far.
He's giving some things away with his hand. Let's watch that section one more time.
I know, drifting far.
Hey! His voice is being led by his body language. How he extends his hand out like that as he's holding that note and then sort of recoils as he goes down that run. I say all the time that the body follows the mind, which follows the body, which follows the mind. It's this endless cycle when it comes to singing. And if we are overly concerned with what our body's doing while we're singing, we will give in to unconscious tension, which will trap our voice. If we are so concerned about what our voice is doing, whether we're hitting the right notes or the right pitches, whatever, if we're too concerned with that, we will also trap our voice. The key to free singing, and he's demonstrating it right here in a masterful way, is to let your body react to what you're feeling when you sing, and then your mind reacts to what your body is doing, perpetuating the cycle in a positive way. Experience your voice on a sensation-based level before thinking about how it sounds. Let your body react to that sensation, and then let your mind react to the freedom that your body is experiencing, and the sound will dial itself in. I've seen this happen over and over again, and you hear it happening, you see it happening over and over again here with Gabriel. That was really interesting. With that particular vocal posture, he's actually taking a yawn approach to mixing. That's not a chest voice note. Yawn, as opposed to which is sort of like the note I did earlier. He's placing these notes in a lot of dynamic ways to get all sorts of different tones out, not locking himself into one particular way that he may hit best. This makes it more interesting. It's really cool. And then listen here. We had and then we had right? Totally different placements, same note. Not even singing any words, so there's not even really a vowel that is perpetuating this change in placement. It's just his sensation-based articulation coming out in a variety of ways. It's cool, that little subtle run at the very end there. That sigh. That's another one of those examples. Don't, if you're trying to learn from this experience, try to do exactly what he's doing. Don't try to hit the notes that Gabriel's hitting. Simply take the concept and put it in your own voice over whatever note, just like I'm doing, and don't be concerned about sounding stupid. I am not concerned about sounding stupid. You have to sound stupid while you're picking things up from other vocalists that sound great. If you try to pick things up from other vocalists that sound great and then immediately judge yourself for sounding stupid because you're trying to sing what they're singing, you'll never get anywhere. You have to start with this gotta suck mentality, and then over time, with an open mind, things will come. Much more open and mixed there. It was thinner, right? It wasn't yawned. It was ah. I was placed a little more like the yawn. Yeah. Do you hear how he's going back and forth between that yawned approach and that more brash forward approach? His larynx is floating too. You can hear that in his approach. How many times have you heard, oh, your larynx should be here. Don't let your larynx raise. Let your larynx float. Don't even pay attention to whether it's high or low. Pay attention to the types of placements you're using and how variety-oriented and full you can be there. And let your larynx do whatever. Yeah! You can hear all the things I was talking about, the dynamic placement, the way he's using his airflow, the way he's using his different registers coming into play here for ultimate freedom and power. He's using a mixed voice here that is highly honed and refined. A highly honed and refined mixed voice, and the agility that comes with what he's doing here comes from being willing to be free, non-judgmental, and experimental with your voice. Experimenting with all sorts of different characteristics without thinking about which ones sound good or sound bad, but instead leaning into how things feel. You can tell he's feeling everything he does. And that's what we relate to. It's also what, over time, creates a fantastic sounding voice.
What about the man? What about the quiet man? What about Abraham? What about Liepe again?
Oh, I gotta hear that again. Oh. Oh! See my video on how to start honing whistle tones in your own voice. I won't go into it a ton here. What an incredible on-demand usage of this. I have not heard this from a male vocalist like this in what appears to be a one-take cover. This is incredible. Whistle tones aren't coming from your primary chords. Lots of times they're coming from a constriction that is up higher in the throat, similar to the constrictions that harsh vocalists or extreme vocalists will use, which is why a lot of people can't find it. More on that in my video on whistle tones. Incredible control and wow. Oh! Okay. It's got things so well blended. It's low. Wow. Oh. And to have that kind of agility. Oh, there's even this release, this sort of sigh within the whistle tone exhale. He has an H in there. What? Oh, and it gets right back into that nice belted chest voice. I have never heard anything like this in my life. Oh. If you are free and non-judgmental with your practicing, will you be as good as Gabriel? No. But there's so much that we can take away from watching his persona here and from listening to the results. He is so incredibly free, not because he is good. He is good, he is exceptional, first and foremost, because he is free. If you take nothing else away from this video from an encouragement or like inspirational standpoint for your own voice, take that bit of information away. That he is good, he is exceptional because he started by approaching his voice with a sense of freedom, not striving. Be sure to check out all of my Michael Jackson videos if you haven't already. I've left the playlist here on the screen. And again, if you'd like more help exploring your voice in a non-judgmental way and pulling things out of it you never thought possible, click the link below and join my free course. We'll see you for more. The gig's about to start. That red light's about to go on. You're about to go on to stage. You're about to perform. What do you do with your voice? What are some things that you can do to ensure that you have a good performance? Well, here's what not to do. Don't try to cram in another warm-up. Don't try to think about all the things that you might forget or those notes that you might not hit. Instead, here's what you do. Create a distraction, a fun distraction that has nothing to do with what you're about to start doing. Jump up and down. Start a conversation about something that has nothing to do with anything. Laugh a little bit. Be free and completely detached from what you're about to do. Remember, you've rehearsed, you've practiced, you've already warmed up. You don't need to cram anything else in. Hey, Chris Liepe here with special guest Lauren Babic, and we're going to find out how you found your grit, and as a result, you can find your grit.
These weathered hands are jaded. The cracks in the bones tell stories of blood. Nothing can stand in my way. You will be.
Now, before you try any of this, make sure that you are good and warmed up. So, click the link in the description to my free course called How to Awaken Your Inner Monster, and that's going to help you warm up for this.
How did you initially stumble upon, because that's really what this is all about, how did you initially stumble upon singing with grit or distortion?
It was pretty much in the music I listened to when I was a teenager. So, like Linkin Park, The Used, My Chemical Romance. And it's this sort of reckless abandon of singing rock and roll and being just a badass.
Pushing yourself slightly beyond your
Right.
limits, but knowing how to live slightly beyond your limits, right?
But doing that in a healthy way so you can make it sustainable.
Right. Because I think a lot of people who oh yeah, I just push myself till we're not talking about pushing yourself in terms of volume or intensity even. We're talking about pushing yourself how?
We're going to try and find your chest voice pitch ceiling where your voice breaks.
So where you want to naturally break up into your head voice, la 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 la, where you start to do that, right?
Exactly. It's not going to be pretty, but we want to get you feeling that sensation so that you're not scared. So we're going up and we're trying to find, where does your voice break? Yeah!
You can't just have rasp or grit on one note, right? If you're going up to this one area, okay, well, fine, I can do distortion on that note, but how do you transition from that to being able to use it around different parts of your range?
I think it's getting comfortable with the sensation first. Because often we get very afraid and we tend to hesitate the moment our voice starts to break.
Yeah.
And we think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do something or hurt myself.
Yeah, or it doesn't sound right.
Right. So we tend to get very critical, and when we hesitate, that sometimes affects the airflow.
And keeps us from discovering what we want to discover.
Right.
So find the sensation first, and then once we can really lean into that in that one particular area of our voice, then start moving it around.
Right.
Okay.
And I wouldn't start increasing any sort of volume, because when we think I need to be loud, that's when we're going to overexert.
So once you find that little area, rather than thinking be louder, think hold back air.
Yes,
Which-
and it sounds contradictory.
Yeah.
Like, oh, grit means I need to be loud and powerful and just scream my heart out. But it's actually the opposite. We are controlling the air and almost building up a pressure at the back.
So sing that section of Empire, do it without the grit, and then show us the sort of exposed breaking of the dialing it in, and then show us the tightening it up. Because
Okay.
that's in one, where you add that grit, that's in one particular area of your voice. So it's a really good way to practice this particular thing.
And I think it's the easiest for me because it
It's
lives
right there at that break.
right at the breaking point of my chest voice ceiling. These weathered hands are jaded.
Yeah, you're almost exposing it or exaggerating the break before you lean in and try to tighten it up.
These weathered hands are jaded. You want to play in that little glottal area?
These, I'm going to lower it. These weathered hands are are jaded. These weathered hands 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 are jaded.
And I like how you're manipulating your airflow too, and as the notes come down, you're backing off.
Sure.
So that's good for dynamics as well.
Not locked into one thing. It's not like every note has to be the same grit. And I think that's almost a side effect of like, I'm not really gonna break in this area. I mean, I can try, but and there's other ways you can access distortion in those lower notes. But this particular method works really well when you have that sort of lift into a melody. So great, thanks for the examples. It's fantastic seeing another voice and a female voice do that same approach. One of the questions I get a lot is, can females do this sort of thing? And I mean, yes. And not only can they do that, but this is your primary method for that not so strained, natural sounding distortion.
And so often, even as a female, we are so scared to get out of our clean voice because often maybe in high school you were in choir and you were taught a specific way, and vocal course coaches and teachers maybe told you this is bad, 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 bad.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get you out of that fear because it's getting out of your headspace so that you can sort of grit up your voice a little bit.
Embrace the ugliness and the weirdness. Lean into these sensations and pay attention to your body. And if you'd like to go deeper with Lauren's approach, click that link below and join the free warm-ups course. Get your voice good and warmed up to try this stuff and learn a few more things about how to approach harsh and aggressive singing. Good support versus bad support. How it's supposed to look and feel. We're not going like this and pushing in. Our stomach shouldn't be doing that. It shouldn't be a push up into this area. It should be a down. Like that. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. Poop muscles. Sometimes it's helpful to lay down so you can get a sense for how inefficient the wrong ways are. Ha, 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 ha. That's the subtle inward look, but I'm focusing down. Ha, ha, ha. See how that engages too much? Ha, ha, ha. Ha. Hey, Chris Liepe here. I saw this video, Mike Shinoda already over, come up on my feed and thought, I have got to do a video on this. I've got to listen to it with you guys. Do a first-time reaction and analysis of it. It's an understatement that I've been a massive fan of Mike's for decades. And the recent In My Head sessions where he's coaching Kaylee through various vocalizations and production ideas really brought me back to some of the footage of Mike and Chester working together. So I'm super excited to hear some fresh writing and production from Mike. Let's hear it.
Bruises, broken in pieces, spread out till they didn't exist. Losing sight of what's decent and too righteous to know what you did. Maybe it's just survival, optimistic but blind. Maybe it's just denial, out of sight, out of mind. But it's already over and I don't even know. Looking for a window that I already closed. No matter how much I want it, how bad I've tried, nothing's there on the other side. It's already over.
Always a master of earworm hooks. But more importantly, to my ears, are all the little subtleties in the arranging and production. Let's go back and listen. The vocals sound dry when you're listening passively, but there's all these things going around the vocals that when you listen more closely to Linkin Park songs, you hear the same stuff going on, and our passive listening ears attribute what we're loving simply to a great vocal performance. And it is a good vocal performance, but there's so much more going on that's fun to nerd out on. So let's go back and I'll point a few of those things out. There is a drive, a distortion on his voice that you can't get simply by adding a compressor or simply by singing into a mic. And a lot of times, vocalists will use this, or producers will use this on vocalists when they're starting to scream or sing really high. But he has created this like plastered to the front of the mix sound by adding distortion in a more mellow vocal. Then, do you hear the repetitive delay that just, it sprung off of that one syllable? No. So subtle. These are the things that if you're a vocalist or a producer, oftentimes you stumble onto these things while you're writing or recording the song or maybe mixing, and are so fun to hear in other people's music because they inspire ideas for you while you're going through your own journey as a vocalist and producer. By the way, this is a singing channel. I help people pull all sorts of things out of their voice that they never knew were there simply by leaning into their own influences and inspirations and learning to listen to and experiment with them in different ways. And one of my main inspirations continues to be Chester Bennington. And one of the main reasons that Chester sounded the way he sounded was because of the work that he and Mike did together. If you'd like more help exploring your own voice and finding out what it can really do, click the link below in the description and join my free voice course. Okay, subtle vocal doubling, still fairly dry, panned a little bit off center to create a bit more space or width out of the voice. Now listen to the width that I just pointed out, and then in addition, there's some lower harmony, some lower parts going on in there. Just in that very first part, there was those little harmonies. That was super cool. Revolving delay, reverb, but this time it was a different part. The harmony got the delay. Okay, so remember what I said earlier about the vocals initially appearing quite dry. Keywords, key phrases, key syllables being emphasized by effects and production. I don't think people understand how important it is to have great production around great melodies. A lot of times these melodies wouldn't stick in our head, wouldn't become so iconic if they weren't produced in the ways that we've gotten to know them as being produced. And it's this kind of production where it's such subtle support that you don't even notice it unless you're really, really listening for it. Go back and listen to all the old Linkin Park stuff. Go back and listen to other melodies that you think are fairly raw and listen for these subtle production tweaks, and you'll see what I mean. I gotta hear that harmony stack again. And then the shouty hook at the end of that. It's you know what else I like about it is the stack is actually fairly narrow in the stereo spectrum. And then the "it's already over" comes out and it's widened. So it emphasizes both in a way. Okay, the last time that echo happened, it was on this side. And this time it happened on this side, the echo. And he's saying the words "other side." It's witty. Great song, hook, vocal production, and melody. Thanks, Mike, for continuing to put out stuff that brings me back and pushes me forward with inspiration. If you'd like to check out a lot of the other videos I've done on Linkin Park, I've done a ton of them. Chester is one of my favorite vocalists of all time. Be sure to check out this playlist. And again, if you'd like more help unlocking your own voice and its full potential, click that link below and join my free course. We'll see you for more. There's all sorts of superstitions out there when it comes to what singers should drink, how they should drink, when they should drink it. I'm here to make it very simple for you. First of all, a little bit of alcohol before a performance or a recording session or a YouTube video can be quite nice. It calms the nerves. It takes the focus off some of the fears you may have going into things. But remember, moderation. No alcohol if you're under 21. Second of all, teas, potions, elixirs, combinations of things, those are fine to drink in different capacities while you're not singing. Distortion. Are your lower abdominals tired? This is not only the first check. This one is absolutely essential. We need to make sure we're getting our energy from the right place. If you're not sure, if you've practiced distortion and you haven't gone through the process of understanding where the intensity should be when you're regularly singing or when you're singing with lots of distortion or grit or screaming, not only are the other two checks not going to work, but your distortion techniques are absolutely not safe. So dial in the correct sensation of support clearly and efficiently so that you can do these other steps and be safe. Click the link below in the video description or the first comment. Check 2. Does your distortion feel subtractive in terms of volume? If I belt a note, hey, and then in order to add distortion, I have to get louder, hey, that's not sustainable. You're not doing it right. And you notice there's an uneasiness to it. I'm going so hard on my primary chords that even after I did that for just a little bit there, I feel a little bit of hoarseness setting in. We want to make things subtractive. In other words, we want to make sure that we are experiencing the sensation of holding back air even when we are creating heavy distortions. So if I hold that same note again, hey, highly belted, I actually don't want to think belt. Hey, I want to back off on air pressure initially, and then I want to constrict, upper constriction, as high in the throat as possible with that, as I've talked about in other videos, lifting something heavy sensation. This desk is heavy. Notice when I do that, I raise the pitch, but there's actually less air passing through my vocal tract there. It's compressing. I feel a greater intensity in my abdominal muscles, and I feel this sensation of cutting back air as high in my throat as possible. So if I belt that note and then back off a little bit, and then think lifting something heavy, hey, 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 yeah, yeah. There's actually a easing into it. It's not just hey, hey. Now that's for a more mild distortion. If I want a really broken up distortion like you heard in the intro, I can do that same thing by backing off. I can release into it instead of bulldoze into it. Hey, 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 hey. That's brutal, but it's also slightly quieter than hey. So that's check 2. Is your distortion subtractive in volume? And check 3, and all of these things go together so hand in hand. And as you continue to feel out what you're doing and make observations about various places that you experience different sensations, all 3 of these checks are going to be easier to lean into and follow. Is your distortion additive in terms of sensation? Okay, so we want to be subtractive in terms of volume, but additive in terms of sensation. Let's go back to our belted note. Hey! And I'm just plowing into that, going harder and harder on my primary chords and hope that things break up. Not good. When I do that, as I increase in volume and intensity, my sensation center in my throat almost narrows. I sense it kind of closing in on itself in one particular area. When I am additive, when I'm thinking additively in sensation, I feel the connection with my vocal tract lengthen in a way. We're practicing that subtractive in volume, adding compression. I feel the sensation being laid over the top of my primary phonation. Clean. This has the byproduct of compressing air, but it also spreads out the way air is being trapped over a broader area of my tract. So if I feel out the points of engagement from the back of my soft palate, I'm kind of feeling out all the different ways that I can constrict air, upper constricted cartilages and tissues, all the way down to my false chords, which are right above my primary chords. Okay, that feels a little lower. It's still higher than my primary chords, but lower than, say, this sensation. So I want a broad engagement. I want to add engagement upwards and feel like things are spread out in my throat. Yeah! As opposed to you can practically hear me. You can hear it in my voice and my talking after just a little bit of that. Let me get a drink, and then, I don't have much of that left in me. But if I go the other direction and broaden the engagement, think about it broadening. Hey, yeah, that one felt really high. Beautiful people. Yeah. I'm still talking fine after a more brutal sound. For more on developing your distortion and screaming and all the different sounds, I've done plenty of videos on it. Be sure to check out the playlist I've linked to you here. And again, if you'd like help with specifically check 1, dialing in that support so that you can do all this other stuff correctly, click that link below and join my free course. We'll see you for more. Belting has more to do with the way the sound vibrates coming out of your face than it does volume. That's a common misconception. This is a belt. Ah! That note is forward. I feel it in the front of my face. I feel it vibrating here. This is not a belt. Ah! Ah! But
it's about the same volume. That note is placed further back. I feel it more in the back of my throat, the back of my soft palate, that area. If you want a belt, make sure you feel it. You're directing the sensation of that note towards the front of your face.
That one was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Are you gonna spread love? Oh, hey.